I think a new BNP government, which we might potentially see within a week's time, is willing to work towards a better relationship, but one that is based on trust and mutual respect. I would say that history and geography binds us, but it is mutual respect and trust which will allow us to grow together.
So you seriously believe that Tarique Rahman will seek to improve the relationship with Delhi?
Absolutely. I think he is willing to reset our relationship, not just with India, but also with our other neighbor as well, and create a balanced foreign policy where we will definitely pursue Bangladesh's national interests, but have an harmonious relationship with countries both within and outside the region, which will help our economic growth and prosperity.
Hi, I'm Karan Thapar. Over the last few years, I hope you've been watching my program, The Interview on the Wire. During that period, I've interviewed doctors, politicians, businessmen, scientists, authors, and even the occasional Nobel laureate. For me, it's been exciting. I hope it's been enjoyable for you. But these, as you know, are tough times, and if this program is going to remain bold, independent, and sometimes even defiant, then I think we need your support. At the end of the day, it's a truism, but editorial independence is best defended by the viewers. So if you would like this program to remain the way it is, forthright, outspoken, and interesting, then would you consider supporting us? All you have to do is to click on the description at the bottom. But more than anything else, I hope you will continue to watch the interview. Your viewership means an awful lot to me.
Hello and welcome to a special interview for The Wire. In exactly 1 week on the 12th, Bangladesh will hold elections marking a return to democracy in the troubled country. How well prepared is Bangladesh for this exercise? Does the banning of the Awami League undermine the election? How popular is the Islamist Jamaat-e-Islami? Is Tarique Rahman's Bangladesh Nationalist Party the frontrunner? What sort of policies will he pursue? What sort of relationship would he seek with India? And finally, could the forthcoming elections become a flashpoint for disturbance and violence? Those are the key issues I shall discuss today with a senior fellow of the Bangladesh Institute of Peace and Security Studies, Shafqat Munir. Shafqat Munir, in exactly a week on the 12th, Bangladesh will hold what the Economist calls its first proper elections since 2008. As the magazine says, 40% of the country's 128 million voters have never cast a real ballot. How well prepared is Bangladesh for this exercise?
Thank you. Indeed, for 2 decades, this country has not had a proper election. The last time we went to the ballot and our ballots counted was in 2008, which is a lifetime ago. This election, therefore, is not just an ordinary election. It is an election for democratic renewal and revival of this country. There are many challenges, chiefly security being a major challenge. It's also a very massive electorate. 124.6 million people are registered to vote, a very large electorate indeed. But I'm confident that the authorities, especially the Election Commission, are very well prepared to have a very good election indeed.
So you're confident that the Election Commission is well prepared for what you call a very good election. You're confident of that?
Absolutely.
Now, the former ruling party, Sheikh Hasina's Awami League, is banned and cannot participate in the election. Many people would say that vitiates the exercise.
I don't think that vitiates the exercise. The Awami League is not technically banned. Its activities are barred, and that's because of the various activities it had done, especially during the Monsoon Revolution. Regrettably, the Awami League and its leadership in the last 18 months have not expressed any remorse, not expressed any regrets, and not even issued a mere apology for all the atrocities that were committed during the revolution or the days of the uprising. So I think the onus is on the Awami League to come to terms with the crimes that were committed during its tenure, especially during those 36 days in July and August. And then I think the Bangladeshi people will consider whether they can be brought back into the mainstream political frame or not.
Are you suggesting that if the Awami League had apologized for the atrocities committed during its time, and I should actually say alleged atrocities, it would have been permitted to participate in the elections? In other words, it's the absence of an apology that has led to the Awami League's activities being barred, as you said.
No, I don't think it's as simple as that. But all of us, the people of Bangladesh, had expected that in the last 18 months, and we are literally 18 months away from the monsoon revolution on the 5th of August when Sheikh Hasina fled the country. But we have not seen even an iota of remorse or regret from the Awami League. And I think I speak for most of my compatriots that this really worries us. There
Tell
is a
me,
yeah.
what percentage of the Bangladeshi people still support the Awami League, and how do they view the fact that their party cannot participate in the elections?
It is hard to put a percentage number because the number can vary, but we could, for argument's sake, we could say, let's say 20% of the population still supports Awami League. Even within the Awami League voters, there is regret that the Awami League very obstinately sticks to its old position, dabbles in conspiracy theories, and is unable and unwilling to acknowledge the new reality of Bangladesh.
If as many as 20% of the population of the country still supports the Awami League, and I should point out that others put it perhaps at 30%, that's a very sizable number of people whose preferred party is barred and banned. Won't that undermine the election?
I don't think that necessarily undermines the election because they have a choice to vote for other parties. And I again go back to my point that this the reason that they are barred, and because many of their cases are under trial, we also have to look at what crimes were committed during their tenure between 2009 and 2024, and especially when the revolution was unfolding. So I think we also have to look at that. And as I said earlier, the Awami League voters also acknowledge that the party, the organization, its leadership has been both unwilling and unable to come to terms with the new reality. If they were able to come to terms with the new reality, perhaps things could have been different. So I think, as I said earlier, the onus is on the Awami League. They have to acknowledge what has happened. They have to acknowledge the mistakes that they've committed. And then perhaps the country can turn a page, not before
But
that.
you stand by the point you've made that the election is not undermined by the fact that the Awami League can't participate. You stand by that.
I absolutely stand by that. If you come to Dhaka, it's a very festive environment. People are enthusiastically waiting to vote on the 12th of February. And the reason that they're enthusiastic is because the Awami League, for 3 successive elections, did not allow our votes to be counted. They had completely undermined and ruined the integrity of the electoral process, which this country is now fighting back to regain.
All right, let's then talk about the other parties that are able to participate. First, there's the Jamaat-e-Islami, and it's an Islamist party. But Thomas Keed of the International Crisis Group has said that the support that Jamaat-e-Islami gets is despite the fact it's an Islamist party, not because of it. That's a very interesting point, and I want to ask you, do you agree?
I don't think I necessarily agree with that because the people who want to vote for Jamaat-e-Islami still want to vote for primarily for its religio-political ideology. And yes, the Jamaat is trying to appeal to moderate voters, and they might perhaps succeed in appealing to some of the moderate voters, especially among the first-time and young voters, using the plank that they have not been tested before. But for most people in Bangladesh, and I repeat, for most people in Bangladesh, their role in the War of Independence in 1971, their views on women, especially the public pronouncements of the Amir of Jamaat in an Al Jazeera interview, and some of the other regressive agenda that they want to pursue is a matter of tremendous alarm.
In fact, you talk about their views of women. I gather that the Jamaat has not fielded a single woman candidate in this election, and the Jamaat has further suggested that it could limit the number of hours Bangladeshi women are permitted to work. How does that go down with the people? Because Bangladesh has a very high proportion of women who are part of the labor force.
The majority of the voters are actually women. Bangladesh has been a shining example of women empowerment, not just in the Muslim world, but globally and particularly in this region. So, when a major political party that aspires to be in power comes up with such an obscurantist agenda, and an agenda where their views on women, including women in leadership, is very problematic, it definitely sends an alarm not just among women voters, but voters writ large.
Tell me, would you describe the Jamaat as a fundamentalist party?
I would describe the Jamaat as a party based on a religious agenda. I wouldn't want to sort of use a term like fundamentalist or so on, but I would say it's a religion-based party which is trying to project a moderate image, but its primary plank remains that it's a religion-based party, and that's how it appeals to its voters. But
Now,
yes, some of their views are definitely what could be called fundamentalist.
something that's undeniable is whichever party forms the next government in Bangladesh will have a huge challenge on its hands. Does the Jamaat have the experience to run Bangladesh given the circumstances the country faces?
I don't think the Jamaat has the requisite experience or the wherewithal to face the challenges that Bangladesh faces. I know that it harps on the point that they have never been tried and tested before, but at the same time, their complete and utter lack of experience, not just in governance, but even if you look at their parliamentary seats, they never crossed the mark of 18 or 18. So I think that makes them very ill equipped to take on the challenges that Bangladesh faces. That's the reality.
Let's then come to the second big party, which is the Bangladesh Nationalist Party, and its 60-year-old leader Tarique Rahman is said widely to be the front runner to become prime minister. In your eyes, is the BNP likely to win?
I think the BNP are the clear front runners in the election, and all the numbers that have been published, all the trends that we are monitoring suggests that there will be a BNP victory. Of course, not say anything absolutely conclusively until the votes are cast, but that's the trend that we are looking at. And many foreign publications such as The Economist and others are calling the BNP and Mr. Tarique Rahman the front runners for victory.
Let's talk a little about Tarique Rahman. He's only just returned to Bangladesh after 17 years in exile in London. Does that mean that he's relatively not well known to the people of Bangladesh? After all, he's been out of the country for 17 years.
He has indeed been out of the country for 17 years, but he was in exile and not by choice because of compulsions. But I think it would be remiss of us to say that he is not known to the people. Throughout those 17 years, he has been engaged with Bangladesh. And we mustn't also lose sight of the fact that after his mother, the former Prime Minister Begum Khaleda Zia, was incarcerated in February 2018, he has been effectively running the party. And even when he was in London, he was engaging with his party, his electorate, and the wider population through online platforms. So he has remained very engaged. And ever since he has returned on the 25th of December, he is working relentlessly to engage with the voters, travel across the length and breadth of the country, especially during the campaign period, and take his message across to the people.
Now, the Economist article that I cited earlier refers to American diplomatic cables dating back to the years 2008-2009, which allege that Tarique Rahman was, and I'm quoting now, widely considered one of the most corrupt individuals in Bangladesh and was, and again I'm quoting, notorious for flagrantly and frequently demanding bribes. Is that true? And secondly, is that held against him?
I don't want to engage in speculation of what was in a WikiLeaks cable. Those are allegations at best, and those allegations have never been proven. The Sheikh Hasina regime tried their utmost to prove some of those allegations, and he has been acquitted in those cases. What I am interested in as a voter is what vision Tarique Rahman offers the people of Bangladesh. And so far, what I have seen, he has a clear plan, he has a vision. The Economist article also talks about some of the things that he wants to do. And he has brought in a culture of what I would term action-oriented politics. And that's what Bangladesh needs going forward.
But you're saying to me that the allegations cited in those diplomatic cables that were leaked by WikiLeaks are just allegations and nothing more?
I think they're just allegations. I mean, all his cases have been dropped by the court. He has been acquitted by the court. So I think we have to go with that.
In which case, let's talk about the sort of policies Tarique Rahman would follow if he were to become Prime Minister after the 12th of February. The Economist says that he's promised to dig 20,000 kilometers of canals and plant an astonishing 50 million trees a year.
That's
But
correct.
the critical question is, what does he plan to do about creating jobs?
He has also given an agenda about creating jobs. And from what we have seen and heard so far, resetting the economy, putting the economy back on track. And I want to say that the economy suffered grievously because of crony capitalism that was pursued under the Awami League and the instability that has followed after. So resetting the economy, putting the economy back on track, creating jobs, upskilling our population, those are very clear priorities that he has put forward. And if he is given the opportunity, I'm sure he will put the right team in place to implement those policies.
Has his economic agenda, which you spelt out a moment ago, won a lot of praise and a lot of support?
His economic agenda has definitely won a lot of praise, especially he is linking the economic progress with skill development, with education, and with other sectors as well. And everywhere he is going, all the meetings that I have seen or I have observed, both in the newspapers and the electronic media, he has taken his campaign away from sloganeering, which is generally the norm in South Asian politics, to, as I said earlier, a more action-oriented, policy-oriented agenda. He doesn't want to just make promises. He wants to tell voters what he wants to do to implement those promises.
Now, if Tarique Rahman is elected, what do you believe will be the sort of relationship he would seek with India? Will it be as tense and fraught as it is at the moment, or might he look for some sort of rapprochement?
A tense and fraught relationship between two neighbors who are joined by more than 4,000 kilometers of land border, the sixth longest land border in the world, is definitely not an ideal situation. I think there is ample recognition within the BNP leadership and the party that there is a need to reset the relationship, work on the trust deficit, and create an environment where both countries mutually benefit from a good relationship. I have said before in your program, and I distinctly remember when we had spoken right after the revolution, that geopolitics and geography dictates that India and Bangladesh have a constructive, productive bilateral relationship based on mutual respect and trust. And I'm quite sure that is what Tarique Rahman and the BNP would like to see as well.
I'll tell you why I asked that question, because during the years when his mother was Prime Minister of Bangladesh, the relationship with India was, let's say, tense. It wasn't as close, it wasn't as harmonious as it was under Sheikh Hasina. Is he determined to ensure that the relationship will be different when he becomes Prime Minister? Is that what you're suggesting?
Across political regimes in Bangladesh, in our 55-year-old history, we have had challenges in the Indo-Bangladesh relationship. When two countries share such a long border, when there is various other sort of challenges that are there in terms of shared resources, there will always be challenges and obstacles. But I think a new BNP government, which we might potentially see within a week's time, is willing to work towards a better relationship, but one that is based on trust and mutual respect. I would say that history and geography binds us, but it is mutual respect and trust which will allow us to grow together.
So you seriously believe that Tarique Rahman will seek to improve the relationship with Delhi?
Absolutely. I think he is willing to reset our relationship, not just with India, but also with our other neighbor as well, and create a balanced foreign policy where We will definitely pursue Bangladesh's national interests, but have an harmonious relationship with countries both within and outside the region, which will help our economic growth and prosperity.
We're coming towards the end of this interview, but let me ask, to what extent does the outcome of the forthcoming election, which is in exactly a week's time on the 12th, depend upon how Awami League supporters vote? You said to me that they constitute possibly 20% of the electorate, others put it at 30%. That's a fairly sizable chunk. Since they can't vote for their own favored party, does the election hinge upon how they vote now between the Jamaat and the BNP? And let me add, to what extent will those supporters of the Awami League be guided by the advice or message they possibly get from Sheikh Hasina in Delhi?
To a degree, they could be guided by the message that Sheikh Hasina sends from Delhi, but we saw a poll that was published yesterday that 48% or 49% of the Awami League voters are expected to vote for BNP. At the end of the day, the person sitting in rural Gaibandha or Kurigram or Jessore is guided by his or her well-being, his or her vision for the kind of prosperous future he or she would like to see, and the future of their progeny. So no matter what advice emanates from Sheikh Hasina in Delhi, they will ultimately see what is best for them. And that's why I think we have this figure that 49% are likely to vote for BNP and a certain percentage is likely to vote for Jamaat. So I think that's probably the trajectory that we will see in the coming days.
Finally, Shafqat Munir, how confident are you that the election will pass off reasonably peacefully, or is there a real potential for disturbance and violence?
The interim government and the election commission is completely cognizant of the fact that the security challenges are quite plentiful and there is always a risk of violence, especially when you have such a large electorate. They have taken a very solid preparation in terms of ensuring security. Nearly 100,000 troops from the three services are going to be deployed. Additionally, there will be police, there will be paramilitary forces. It's a massive security preparation for the upcoming election. So I think there is an adequate preparation for that. But to sum up,
Sorry,
please
carry on.
Now, to sum up, I want to say that this is not, and as I said at the beginning, this is not an ordinary election. The voters are faced with a stark choice. The choice is between a future which will be progressive, forward-looking, modern, and prosperous, and a future which will be marked by regression and obscurantism. So I think the choice is very clear.
The progressive future is, I take it, the BNP coming to power. Regression is the Jamaat-e-Islami. Have I understood that correctly?
Absolutely.
Finally, and this is my last question, how will the people of Bangladesh look back on the interim government? How will they look back on Muhammad Yunus?
The people of Bangladesh will look back at the interim government with mixed feelings. 18 months ago, when the interim government had taken charge, there were massive expectations. We have to be fair to the interim government that they also inherited a country which was completely broken. It was still reeling from the death and destruction that happened during those 36 days of the revolution. They had set out an ambitious reform agenda. They had succeeded in certain areas. They have not succeeded in some areas. So I think the people will say that there was a lot of disappointment because their expectation was that they could do a lot more. But at the same time, they would also be fair to judge that they operated under very constrained circumstances and they did the best they could. And I think the final expectation from the interim government, from the people of Bangladesh, is a free, fair, credible, genuine, peaceful election that they need to organize so that the power can return to the representatives of the people. And once again, we can have a stable political government which will revive democracy, which has long been lost in Bangladesh.
All right, let's leave it there. Shafqat Munir, thank you very much for making time for me. Thank you very much for sharing with us your understanding and analysis of the election that happens exactly in a week's time on the 12th of February.
Thank you for having me.
Stay safe.
Hi, I'm Karan Thapar. Over the last few years, I hope you've been watching my program, The Interview on the Wire. During that period, I've interviewed doctors, politicians, businessmen, scientists, authors, and even the occasional Nobel laureate. For me, it's been exciting. I hope it's been enjoyable for you. But these, as you know, are tough times, and if this program is going to remain bold, independent, and sometimes even defiant, then I think we need your support. At the end of the day, it's a truism, but editorial independence is best defended by the viewers. So if you would like this program to remain the way it is, forthright, outspoken, and interesting, then would you consider supporting us? All you have to do is to click on the description at the bottom. But more than anything else, I hope you will continue to watch the interview. Your viewership means an awful lot to me.